Okay. All right. Welcome back to another episode of The Mess in the Middle. And today I've got a super fun, and I'm definitely looking forward to this conversation. So, welcome to the show. Please take a couple minutes to catch people up. Where are you? How does life work for you in your universe? And then we'll dive into how we can help somebody today keep moving through the mess in the middle.
Thank you for having me. My name is Katie Hornor. We serve our folks over at theflamingoadvantage.com. Our business deals with client experience and up-leveling people's unique marketing, how they can leverage that in their business. But we initially came to Mexico. We live here as expats in southern Mexico. And we initially came for a ministry opportunity, later started a business, later started a second business, have since purchased a historic home that we've been able to turn into an Airbnb and another stream of income, and raising our 5 kids here and just loving life. So that's the short story.
No, that's awesome. Then you guys, so your partner, husband, wife, working
Husband.
the same thing as you? So you guys do
Yes.
this together?
Yes, we do this
Awesome.
together. He's a lot more behind the scenes. I'm more the visionary and the teacher.
Yeah,
He's more
yeah.
logistics and making things happen behind the scenes, but we
Nice.
do it together. Yeah.
Nice. Do you guys homeschool your kids?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I wonder how that worked once you get outside the country.
Different countries are different, but
Okay.
here we do have the freedom. Actually, in Mexico, there's no legal protection, but there's also nothing that makes it illegal.
Oh,
And
okay.
so then being of American parents, that helps as well. And so we've been able to homeschool them all the way through.
Nice. What are the age ranges?
Our youngest is 9 and our oldest
Nice.
will be 18 this year.
Good for you. That's quite a accomplishment. I raised 3 kids by myself and it was a little challenging. They're adults now, but yeah, that's a lot of work. And
There's
for
so much
me,
fun.
thank God there were teachers because I could not have done it and worked as well. That was super
Yeah.
challenging.
Yeah. The older they get, the more independent they get.
Yeah.
And so we're in a really good season right now and just
Good.
really enjoying each other. So
Good. Yeah, when they start developing their own brain and where they're going to show up and all, that's pretty magnificent
yeah.
for human beings. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's dig in. So we know a little bit about you. We know you've got multiple businesses. Have you always been an entrepreneur?
That was never the real plan. We both had ministry on our mind.
Okay.
I wanted to be part of mission work and ministry work. And my husband actually skipped the last year of business in his degree because he knew he was coming back to Mexico to work in
Yeah.
missions. But through a series of ministry changes, we found ourselves in Mexico with young children, no savings, no credit cards, no work visa, and like, what are we going to do to support ourselves kind of thing. And so we started a business that was a Spanish business. Actually, we created a homeschool curriculum in the Spanish language.
Nice.
It didn't exist yet, and pioneered that for 10 years. And in the process of learning all the things to run our own business online, then we started coaching other English speaking entrepreneurs to do the same. And that second business has taken off and overpowered, outdone the original one to where that's our main focus nowadays.
Wow. Where we start, where we end up never seems to be the same. Nobody I've ever talked to had a direct line or still doing the same thing, meaning I decide I'm going to sell this widget. And even 2 years later, 5 years later, it's completely either it's got more features, it's different to a different audience, or completely into something else. It's cool to see how that evolved.
My degree was in education, a
Okay.
master's in curriculum development and school administration. So
Nice.
the first business being a curriculum business was in alignment with that. In our second business, we've created all kinds of online education classes for adults and helping them build out their programs, coaching programs or courses
Nice.
online. So it has really come in handy, the things that we've learned. And my husband with construction is also still doing that as we continue to restore this old house and build out the Airbnb. So it is cool that we still get to use what we studied.
I didn't go to college till I was 26. So I did it backwards. I got married, had kids, got divorced, then went to college. So I don't recommend that to anybody. It's definitely a harder path, but I double majored in psychology and behavioral science. And I think at the time I would have pursued something then. But when you're raising 3 kids by yourself, I was not going to start at the bottom because there's no
Yeah, that's a
money in
lot.
teaching. They just don't pay well. And I had to work at things that paid well. I didn't want my kids to suffer because I chose to be a single parent. I opened up a coffee shop and did really well there, and you figure out different ways to do it. And that was my first business.
I also had a coffee shop before
Did
the
you?
pandemic. We
Nice.
did,
There in
yeah.
Mexico?
Here
Well,
in
yeah, you said
Mexico.
you've been there 10 years. Okay.
Yep.
And why do you
So
closed it because of the pandemic?
we closed it because of the pandemic, and then
Mhm.
as our life shifted through the last couple of years, it hasn't been the same priority to reopen
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I think it's community. When I moved so my coffee shops were in California. When I moved to the East Coast, one, I was a little burnout on it. Once you've done one, and then you've done two, you've done three.
Mm.
For me, it's just, okay, I already worked out all the details. I feel like I've maxed out, other than, not that I couldn't learn more stuff. My only option really was just more stores. And that wasn't fun for me. It became a
Right.
management thing. I had 65 employees, and then my job, that's what it became, was managing high school and college adults, and yeah, long term, it wasn't for me. We did that quite some time, and when I moved, my mom actually took them over, but it's play to your strengths, right? Play to what you're good at and evolve through it. Don't stop
Mhm.
growing. If you've got a bigger purpose, don't feel like you're stuck there. Tap it out and move on.
And the
Yeah.
things that got you here don't always take you to the next
No.
level either. So nothing's wasted. None of the experience
No,
is wasted.
for sure.
But it's exciting to move on to the next piece as well.
So where are you guys at with all the moving parts that you have? Do you feel like if you were to stage out your business, say you're starting with upstarts, just I've got an idea, or launching us, growing, scaling, automating, where would you say you are in that growth?
We are currently with our coaching business in the midst of the automation and scaling side of things.
Nice.
Our team has grown quite a bit in the last
Good.
year, and working at putting in those SOPs in place and being able to scale. We also reimagined some of our programs in the
Good.
last year and a half so that we would be better positioned to scale and serve folks at each level as we grow. And so we're looking to 4 or 5x our business in the next 12 to 18 months. And I
Beautiful.
think the systems are in place to totally do that. So it's pretty exciting.
Now, you're a business person like me, so I imagine have followed a not direct route, because none of us are direct, but a pretty consistent route to get to that. What made you wait to make the changes that you have to now? Meaning, why didn't you try to do it 6 months ago, or why didn't you try to do it a year
I think as you grow,
ago?
your vision grows, your awareness of what's possible grows. And I think that the differing needs. 3 years ago, I was not looking at having adult children to spend time with, or having to travel internationally because of college visits and things like that.
Mm.
And so I think as we have grown and matured, and our business has grown and matured, our clientele, the people we work with have changed. The whole COVID years changed everyone and how we do things online, even. And so as that happened, what was the one-to-one and what we envisioned being one-to-one work forever suddenly felt like it was more urgent for us to change that to where we could impact more people in a shorter amount of time, and
Okay.
or make a plan for exit eventually so that we could continue to impact people without our direct involvement every single hour of the business. And so that's really the shift that forced us to reimagine the way that we serve our people and the way that
Okay.
our programs were packaged so that we could have more impact essentially over the long run.
So you guys do group coaching programs?
Yes, we have a
Okay.
group coaching program and a mastermind at this point.
Okay. Okay, good. Now, how are you finding the industry as a whole? It's taken a pretty good beating over the last 5 years. Where are you guys at with that?
I think it's interesting to watch the changes industry wide because we're connected to a lot of folks in the marketing and knowledge space.
Brokers.
Yeah. And it's interesting that what I'm seeing, especially from a customer experience standpoint, which is one of the ways that we stand out, is I feel like we're seeing a reversion back to people being more important. I think
Good.
prior to COVID, we were seeing like it was important to automate everything, efficiency and things like that. And I think when that happens, we lose our focus on the people that we're
Mhm.
actually serving. And you can't do business without people, period. And so I think what I have welcomed to see is this return to relationships in our marketing and in the way that we serve our people. And obviously, the more of you that you put into something, the more value there is, the more accessibility to the trainer, the more valuable that offer is too, which allows you to raise prices for those that you serve at that level while still being able to serve the masses at some level. But I think that's a welcome change. And I think
Good.
that those that are able to use the advances in AI and technology and still be able to retain the people first mentality within their business, the ones that are ultimately going to come out on top.
I've interviewed quite a few coaches and all at different stages, some just getting started, some that started when COVID hit, and then a few that had been beforehand. If you were a coach before COVID, a lot of those folks didn't make it. They're burnout. They made a little bit of a pivot, but not enough for it to make a difference. So they got lost in all the noise and the growth trajectory that they had been on. So some of them have had to adjust or add in other kinds of services to stay relevant. And then the ones that kind of launched afterwards, they don't know what this looks like because they weren't a coach beforehand. So they don't know what the previous normal was.
Right.
So it's interesting just to see the different sides of it. It's almost like there was a generation, and then COVID launched a different generation. And then now where we're settling out is another different generation. And coaches there's so many of them, but I really wonder how many of them are able to still deliver consistently based on the direction that they were trying to go.
I think if you haven't changed something about what you do because of the last couple of years, then, there may be a reason that you're stuck. We have to keep evolving and changing, bettering ourselves in what we do for people if we're going to continue. And I think that really is the key, is that those who don't quit, those who do keep bettering that, how do we do this better? How do we serve our people better? Those are the ones who are going to end up in the future. There's not a huge difference, I don't think, in the winners and the losers in terms of talent or resources. It's more consistency and faithfulness, really. And if this is something that's really a calling or a passion for you, then you're going to wise up to the point that you put the boundaries in place so you don't burn out. And you're going to continue to invest in yourself so that you can learn what you need to learn to continue to ride the trends and be able to continue to serve people in the new world with the new advances that we're coming into all the time. When the AI stuff came out big in November, few months ago, and everyone started, all the copywriters are going to lose their job. And I'm like, no, the copywriters who learn to use the tool to do their job better and faster are going to keep going. The ones who don't learn to use it will lose their jobs. And it's like that whole thing where if it's a passion and if you're continuing to improve yourself as the leader, the CEO, the business owner, then you're going to continue to be able to flex with the changes. And that flexibility, I think, really is one of the biggest determiners of success over time in the marketplace. And the ones that are new, that gives the older one, those of us that were coaching prior, we have a certain experience level that the new ones don't have because of that. I don't see it as a bad thing. I think it's something that we get to leverage that experience. We're still in the game. And so we do have a sort of authority or seniority that the others don't have, maybe a broader perspective they don't have. And I think that even more now, it's important for us to show that expertise and that experience, and to be showing the client testimonials, and the street cred is more important than someone's pretty website or their newfangled processes, so to speak, is that it really comes down to who's got the knowledge and the experience rather than just the pretty perks on the front end.
I feel like I've gone through so many generations from a marketing perspective. So I've owned an agency since 2009. So I've been in this industry a really long time. I almost feel like I'm in dog years because it's been so many years. I'm like, no, dude. No, okay. First we started here. It feels like my evolution has just been, I've gone through so many different generations. And I do have to say, I don't have a lot of, what do I want to say? Tolerance, patience, maybe, for some of the new stuff that's coming out today. And not to pick on anybody, but I think it's a good teaching moment. So social media, we're supposed to be able to use that from a business owner perspective to connect to people, build real,
Relationships.
real, genuine. That's the word I was trying to find. Genuine relationships instead of LinkedIn is something different, right? I expect to be spammed by every single person that says, "Hey, I'd love to connect." And then here's all the widgets I'm selling you. I really don't expect anything different on LinkedIn. I find it very challenging to build genuine relationships there, which is more on we're doing business. We're supposed to be able to talk business. But then Facebook is actually a really good platform for me where I can connect and become real with people. I've met people that the relationship started on Facebook and we've down the road met in person and actually built friendships out of it and do business together. It's been great. Hit or miss. This morning, I get somebody that connects to me. We go back and forth of, oh, you do this, you do that. Where do you live? We talk just like humans connecting. And then he says, do you know about crypto and Forex? Now, mind you, I've set the stage. I'm a
Right.
marketer. I have owned an agency since 2009. I'm on to launching this new marketplace. I provided links, blah, blah, blah. And I said, yes, I know about crypto. I have investments myself, but that's not the path I'm going down because I am vested on this new marketplace I'm launching. Then he says, if you had or something about the stress that keeps you up at night, if you had an extra $5,000 to $10,000 a month, what would that do for you? And I'm just like, you've got to be kidding me. So I wrote back and I said, egads, I thought we were actually having a real conversation here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, thank you, but no, thank you. Please, best of luck to you. And I'm just like, really? Really? So maybe the goal is from a sales perspective, you got to get them 5 minutes talking before you throw your pitch out there. But dude, come up with something more original. Hey, Audra, I see you're in the middle of all this. Is there any way I can help? Here are the services I offer. I could help you here and here. Then the conversation may have kept going.
Right. Yeah.
So really, you didn't hear anything I said. You probably did a copy and paste. And I really wanted to be a jerk, maybe like a marketing jerk. Like, dude, seriously, and call them out on it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, best of luck to you, buddy.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like I want to turn the conversation around and be like, no, but I teach marketing. So if there's any way I can help you with, I can schedule a call with my team.
If there's any way I can get you to be able to close more conversations, I just told you I owned an agency. And I don't mean it to be, it's not like I'm tainted or I'm bitter. I love what I do. But why would you even try that on me?
Yeah. I don't know who it is that's out there teaching that kind of a
It's
tactic,
terrible.
but and Facebook's not the only place that we see it. Like you mentioned, LinkedIn and other places. And I think that's why it's so important that we leverage who we are
Right.
and how we're different in the marketplace. I'm not one of those that's going to jump into your DMs and spam you about crypto or about my next course. Even. We want to create those relationships that really cares about the best next step for the people that we're talking to, whether or not that step is with me.
Right.
Because when I can show that I care about them as a person more than I care about my next dollar, then even if they don't buy in with me right now, I'm going to stay top of mind. And whenever something comes up again, they're going to remember me and come back, or they're going to refer me to somebody else. And you can't buy that kind of referral anywhere.
No. So let me ask you, just starting out, if somebody that's listening to this that is at the beginning of their journey, which means they're focused more on money because they're at the beginning of this, how would you say they stay more genuine when they're trying to approach people?
I think you have to look at it as the transformation. If this is something that you've been given to do in the world, this is your gift to the world. This is how the world will be better because you were in it. Then you would do that whether or not you got paid. And I think there's a mindset switch there. It's hard when you need the money, but it's super important and it comes through. If people know that you're just in this for the next dollar, that comes through and they feel that. But when they can also feel when you're genuinely interested in their success. And so being more concerned about their transformation, helping them to that next right step for them. This is the gift I was given to give the world. And let me show you what a difference it can make for you in your life. I don't know if you know who Pat Flynn is,
Of course.
but he always says,
Yeah.
in order to make someone's life better, you have to make their day better. Right. And so starting with that first little thing, like, how can I serve you today? How can I help you today? And when you go in it with that, it totally puts people off their guard because now they don't feel like you're one of the next spammers out there, and you can go in with that genuine concern for them. That's got us all kinds of clients because
Nice.
we do go through it from that different perspective that you're a person and we want to see you as a person succeed and take that next step. And if we can be a part of that process, we'd love to. And we know that the clients will come as a result when the time is.
That is probably one of the hardest waiting games, though, for new people, especially. We've got such a culture of hustle, hustle, work hard. It's a numbers game. Just ask, you'll fall through and say they're ready to go. What's the flip side of that?
It is a numbers game, but you have to look
Right.
at the numbers you are in control of. I am not in control of who says yes. I am not in control of who sends me money. I am in control of how many times I make the invitation. That's my job. And so I often equate it to someone serving at a restaurant. Their job is to offer you dessert. It's no personal reflection on them if you say no. They don't lose their job or make less money necessarily if you
Mhm.
say no, right? But it's their job to offer dessert. And they can't control whether you say yeah. And so I look at it as it's my job to make the invitation. This is my job. This is what I do. This is how I serve people. And I can control how many people I ask if they want dessert, right? I can control how many offers or invitations that I make, how many relationships I start, how many people I reach out to try to help today to take that next step. And so we set our number goals around the things that we can do in terms of
Mhm.
outreach. How many places can I be a guest speaker and reach new audiences? How many places can I guest post? How many posts are we putting out on social media? How many videos are we creating to put out into the YouTube world? Like
Good.
those kinds of things with the calls to action to come back to us. Or how many people can we follow up with today and have a conversation with today? Because those are things we can control. And we can control when we make that invitation. And then we just have to let the results be what the results are.
Right.
Once you've got a track record and you know the numbers, when we did this many outreaches, we got this many results.
Right.
Next time we did this many outreaches, got this many results. Tracking those numbers then helps you to create better goals for the future around the things you can control because you know what the expected return will be.
That's awesome. So if you're new and you're listening to this, remember at the beginning here, you're not going to have any kind of solid data to grab a hold of and make decisions from. And that's okay. That's part of the process of you learning and evolving into whatever this new role for you is going to be. Don't focus so much on that you lose sight of talking to more people, being genuine in that conversation and really coming from a place to serve first. I used to volunteer quite a bit with an organization in the US called score.org. They are funded by the SBA. So Small Business Administration funds this group. They're nationwide. They're a group of volunteers, that people that just step up and provide business support. So it could be sales, it could be marketing, it could be operations or infrastructure management. There's lots and lots of different experts. But when I volunteered, my only goal was just to help somebody, help
Mm.
them move to the next place. Now, one, you cannot take business from people that you mentor through SCORE, which was fine because I wasn't there for that. I was there just to improve somebody else's life or help push them to the next stage of their business that they were in. So typically people that came to me already had a product, already had a service, maybe was making a few bucks, but they just didn't know where to go next.
Mhm.
And that was fine. I could point them in the direction. No, come over here. We got to go down this road. Don't waste your time over there yet. You're not ready for it. Let's focus on this. And that was great. And I have to tell you, so much business came from that because that person told a cousin, that told a brother, that told a friend, and you can take that kind of business. But again, my intention was not doing it to make money. My intention was to serve.
Right.
The universe, God, your higher power takes care of you on the backside of that when you're serving and helping others. And really, mindset and faith becomes such a huge component of moving that forward for people. And
Yes.
it goes back
And
to, sorry, just to wrap that, it goes back to what you said about if the control's way out of balance, where you're trying to control every conversation, every outcome, and the faith and the mindset are not as big, you're going to be super disappointed with the results. Okay, sorry,
right.
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that in all of that too, it does help for you to know what the industry standard numbers are.
Yeah.
And this is another place where I feel like a lot of times beginners don't know what they don't know. Because if you don't have anyone, a coach, a mentor, a group like that SBA mentor
Score.
group or something like that, you don't know where to get the information. And so you may be doing things that are getting totally normal average numbers for where you are and not know it. And you feel like you're a failure because you put this out there and got 2 or
Yeah.
3 sales. When really, if you knew the numbers and the percentages, then that could be really good. It could be above average, right? And so surrounding yourself with people who do
Yeah.
have knowledge and experience and can speak into you, can ground you, can let you know where you are on that success level makes a ton of sense. Because like, for instance, if you have an opt-in out there that you're putting out to cold traffic, people who've never heard about you, come sign in. Do you have this problem? Here's the answer. Give me your name and email. I'll give you this free download, whatever. The industry average for opt-ins for that is somewhere between 25 to 50% if
Good.
you're landing the language right. And so if you put it out there to 100 people and 25 opt in, like that's good. And then go back and see what you can do to improve it. If you offer them as something for sale on the back end of that, they've never heard from you before. They've just got your free thing. And on the next page, they're saying, do you want to buy this? It's the next step. The industry average is 0.5 to 2%. So
Wow.
you're talking about 2 people for every one of those 100. And so if you don't know that, you could be thinking, I'm doing it all wrong. What's wrong with me? And all of those failure kinds of thoughts and just give up on yourself instead of saying, no, this is working. This is what is average. These are good numbers. I just now need to get more numbers behind it. I need to turn up the volume so that I get 500 people and 10 sales. And that's super important when you're starting out. If you don't have that naturally around you, go and find somewhere where you can be surrounded by the knowledge and information of even just what your industry standards are.
That's a great point. Without data, you're floating out there pretty buoyless or anchorless and just trying to
Emotions
figure
can
it
be
out.
brutal without the data.
Lord, that is too much. It's definitely too much. That's a great point. The takeaway from that is if you're just getting started and you don't have your own numbers, find out what your industry typical numbers look like so you have something to set your goals against. Instead of just going out there and posting saying, okay, that got 3 likes and I got somebody to pick up the call, or have some data behind those decisions that you're making. And it will definitely support you moving faster through that middle.
Absolutely.
So let's pivot a little bit and talk about your clients, not specifically your clients, but your folks that you interact with. What do you find where they get stuck?
I think a lot of the folks that we work with get stuck because they are overthinking
Okay.
or they are getting bogged down in the faithful consistency. You know, you've heard people say it takes 10 years to be an overnight success story, right? There's a lot of faithfulness and consistency that has to happen for anything that is worth committing to. If you're talking about a relationship or a business, it doesn't matter. Like kids and anything.
Yeah,
is
then
gonna
we
stay
don't have a choice.
faithfulness and consistency, right? And so to make it something where you don't have a choice, again, surround yourself with those, build your own boundaries if you know it's necessary, with people who can keep you in it when it gets to that messy middle and you feel like giving up. Because consistency, like we talked before, is going to turn out to be the winner. One of my coaches says commitment over convenience, right? If this is worth doing, it's worth doing on the hard days. And I have people in my life who remind me of that when I get down and bogged
Yeah.
down in that middle, right? Just keep being consistent, keep being faithful, have a sunshine file of the good things and the good comments and the praise that you get so you can go back and remember why you're doing this on the hard days. And I think that is one of the hardest things to get people through the middle. The overthinking part is that as humans and creative humans, because most of us in business are creative in some way, we want to complicate things like, oh, if that worked, this will work better. If that worked, we could add this. And we get all excited about the new and improved when a lot of times we just need to tweak and improve what we've got, right? Keep it simple and make it better. Don't
Right.
make it complex. And a lot of us with that overthinking, then, like the more complex it is, the more support I have to have, or the more team I have to have, or the more, and it just grows to be this big thing when it could be just very simple and streamlined. And so
Yeah.
I think those are the two biggest things: is keep it simple and have that support to help you stay consistent and stay in the game when things get hard, because there's always a messy middle.
Yeah. Years and years into this, I would say out of 20 podcasts that I've done, every single one of them has touched on commitment and consistency. And that seems to be something that we can all control, but at the same time, it's a wild card, meaning sometimes it is so challenging. You know what I do? If I get overwhelmed or I'm so too far in my head that I can't move forward, I've paralyzed myself from movement. One, I got to break my environment, right? Go on to a different part of the project, go on, talk to somebody else, get outside. I got to do something else to pattern interrupt. And then once I do, I also will take a few minutes to flip back through my phone on some of the progress I've made and some of the announcements I've made and some of the things that I have gotten done, regardless if anybody else recognizes them or not, or I got approval or that a girl or a pat on the back, just something for me. It's wait a
Right.
second, sis, you've done this and this. Okay. So today's not a great day. That's okay. It's going to be a better day. An hour from now is going to be a better time. We're in a moment. Being a psychology major and behavioral science, I'm also a master practitioner in NLP. So I don't get stuck there a lot. Very rarely do I get stuck there. I know I'm going to give myself like 10 minutes to have a pity party. And then, sister,
Yep.
it's back to work. And I'm
Right.
good. I've had to train myself to do that. It's not a skill that we're born with. It's something that I've had to learn over year and compartmentalize things. My commitment doesn't change. The situation sucks or is challenging or is sad or whatever, but my commitment, I don't ever question what that looks like. It's taken a long time to learn that.
I had a coach once who looked at me on one of my down days and said, "So what are you going to do? You going to quit?" And I was like, "I can't quit. Like that, there is no
No,
quitting here." He's okay.
I'm
Then get
just
back in it.
complaining.
And I think it's important that we give ourselves the grace to be able to do that. I tell my people I quit every few weeks, but then I do some chocolate therapy and go sleep it off. And the next day we're back at it. And we're asking questions like, why am I overwhelmed? What could be different? What would
Right.
it look like if this was easy? What would it look like if I enjoyed this again? And
Mhm.
that has what has spurred on some of our reimagining of our programs in the last few years as well, is just
Good.
looking at, if I want it to look like this in 3 years and this feels overwhelming right now, how can we change that? What would it look like?
And how do you make sure that doesn't happen or try to forecast it? We can't control the outcomes. Of course, COVID, nobody expected that per se, but just understanding that we are in control of how we react to situations. And if we're not, it's almost like you need to come outside of yourself and say, okay, Audra, is this really happening? Or am I just tired? I'm a little burnout. I've worked too many hours behind a screen. What is it really that is stirring up these emotions that are preventing me from making progress? And really, once you can get to the center of what that challenge is, he says, you're right. I didn't sleep very well, or it was too hot, or it was too cold, or I had a challenge come up. Does that really have anything to do with what you're focused on and what you're trying to grow or change or evolve? Most times they're not connected. It's just a feeling that we've got.
Yeah.
But
I
unless
think,
you work through it, that's super challenging.
and here again is the value of having a community or someone around you that you can go to and be honest like that. None of us are going to grow a business all by ourselves in
Right.
isolation. And our brand is a flamingo brand, and I pull them in as examples a lot all the time. But a flamingo can't survive by themselves, and neither
No.
can you in business. And it's been so important for us in the trajectory of our business growth to have that mastermind group or that coach or group of peers, even that would meet on a regular basis, to be able to go to them and have a safe place to say, I need you to speak life to me today, to have a place where it's okay for you to be vulnerable, when things are not going well, because they're not always going to go well.
Mhm.
And if you can't be that way with your family or your team, you need someone on the outside that you do have a safe place to go to and be willing to do that and say, guys, I'm struggling. I need your perspective today. I need you to remind me of what you me because I'm having a hard time seeing it. And that support system is a huge piece, I think, of
Sure.
long-term success.
I couldn't agree more. Without it, it's challenging. So a lot of times people will go to their spouse or significant other, but if they're not in business, they're not self-employed, they're going to try to help you, but you got to remember their fear of you failing or you suffering is going to influence the advice that they give you to go forward or not go forward.
Right.
Same. So you want to make sure that the person that you pick can connect with you at a place where they're not going to push their fear on you because they have a job, right? Because security is one of their big needs that they've got. But somebody that can say, you know what, I get where you're at because I've done it, or I'm there now, or I've been there before, and I can help kind of help you ground whatever's got you uprooted in your business so you can stay the course.
Yeah, I think a lot of times we try to it's like taking your car, your transmission issue to your music teacher, right? Like we try to do that in business thinking, "Oh, they love me. I'll
Yeah.
just take my problems to them." Well, yes, they do love you, but if they're not the right person with the right experience and the right knowledge to help you solve this problem, then they're going to love you down the wrong path. And so it's so important that you treat the relationships in your life as the relationships they are. And that if you need coaching, you go get it from someone who has the credibility and the appropriate experience to be able to help in that area.
Yeah. In my first couple of businesses, I would hit some dark times, meaning I just felt anchorless and just floating around and not sure exactly what to do. And I would reach out to family, but my family had jobs. And they're like, oh, Audra, I don't know how you're doing that. You should probably get a job. You got to think about other things. And I'm like, that's not what I want to hear. I want to hear, girl, you got this. Go out there and fight. You
Yeah.
work too hard. I needed to hear that, not the, oh, I'm scared for you. You should probably go get a job. You need the security. You're a single parent. And, I'm glad I didn't listen.
Yeah. And that's the like-minded piece too. For the people who really get it, who really understand. The other birds will love you, but only the flamingos understand you from a flamingo perspective.
That's good. So I'm muddling through the middle. I've got a direction. I'm pretty committed to my path, but I'm not sure what to do next. What would you say for somebody that has gotten a little bit of momentum but is stalled out?
We have a 7-step process that we teach for making decisions like that.
Okay.
And I don't have time to go into them all here, but I would say the two most important things is to get advice, like we were just saying, from people who have been there, done that, have the experience. You don't want to just be asking anyone. You need to talk to the people who've done it or are where you want to be and get advice. And then trust that you are in this position for a reason and you have what you need to take that next step. And so a lot of my folks are like, I could do this or I could do this. And they're both good options. And I'm just not doing anything because I don't know what to do. And I'm just like, get over it and make a choice, right? Like, commit. If it's good and good, then what do you want to do? Make a step because the longer you stay immobile, the longer you stay stuck. And that's not serving anyone. And so take the knowledge and take the information in, seek the advice, balance the pros and cons. But at some point, you have to give yourself a deadline and make this decision and move forward. And if it's not the right one, it'll make itself clear within a fairly short amount of time in most cases. And then you can pivot and go to the other one, right? But if you don't do anything, a year from now, you're still going to be stuck here wondering, what am I supposed to do? And that is not serving you. And so I think those are the two most important things. Take the time, the knowledge and the information that you need, balance the pros and cons, but then you've got to make a decision at some point. And that's the only thing that's going to move you forward. And it's the one thing that only you can control.
Sure. Nobody else can make that decision for you. Do you find that coaches or even your clients in general try to deflect or place their decisions or their fear or their self-doubt on you as a coach?
I don't let them.
Good. Doesn't mean they don't try, but
it doesn't mean they don't try. Yeah. Because I
Okay.
think a lot of us, especially in the culture in which we live in today, we've grown up accustomed to so much blame. It's always somebody else's fault. It's always somebody else's problem. There's very little personal accountability. And to be honest, those people are not my right fit clients. The people I work best with are the ones that say, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take responsibility for that. I'm going to take action. And if it goes wrong, then I'll figure it out. There are a lot of people that don't end up working with us because in the onboarding process, we can tell that they're not at the place where they're ready to take accountability for what they need. Accountability is not me calling Audra up every Friday and saying, did you do that? That's nagging. That's mothering. They don't need a mother. They need a coach. And a coach says, you said you were going to do this. So you get to show up next week and tell us if you did it or not. And if you need help, you get to come to us and ask for help. And so I think that's a super big piece of it is that you have to be willing to take personal accountability for the people in your business, if you have a team, and for yourself as you run the business, if you're going to be able to continue to grow and scale.
I can't tell you how many businesses I've worked with over the years from an agency perspective. Now, mind you, I'm not their coach, I'm not their consultant, but that I've had to go in and say, I can't make this decision for you. You have to make it. I'm here to implement the goals that you've established for your company. I'm not here to decide the direction of where you should go or not go. And one of the worst things that I see happen is a lot of these businesses will get some momentum. And man, they're doing well. They're 250, 500,000, a million. And then the momentum, they get to a place where they need to make a pivot, add another product, change out what they're doing. They're ready to move to that growth stage because they've had the revenue. It's coming. And that decision is so challenging for them that they make none. And little by little of that, what if I make the wrong one? Or what if they start losing the momentum and then trying to regain that place in the market or regain that direction they were going. Very few or find it. Or if they do find it, it takes them months to get it back. And if they would have just made the decision, right or wrong, they would have been able, like you said, to ride that momentum that they had built up. And if it wasn't right, they could still pivot before they lost the momentum or talk to somebody before they because no decision is a decision, good or bad. And you got to live with it. You can't just say, oh, I'm like, that's why you're still at 1 million and you haven't gotten to 5 million because you've got to drive.
Yeah. Og Mandino wrote a little tiny historical fiction book about business called The Greatest Salesman in the World. Oh, and there's a quote in there that says, it is better to act and fail than not to act and flounder. And I think that is the key of what you're saying here is that at some point we've got to take action and then take whatever consequences come from that. Because if we didn't, then we're just floundering and we're staying in the same place, wasting all the energy without getting anywhere.
And you're still going to deal with the consequences. So you didn't avoid anything.
We can't expect to blame it on someone else. If you're going to grow and win, you're going to have to take accountability for yourself.
That's why I didn't become a psychologist, because I cannot do whiners. I can't do blame. I know that sounds harsh, but if you're not, we're going to run into challenges. It doesn't matter if you're self-employed, you have a job, you're a parent, you're just a human on this planet breathing. You're going to run into things. It's up to us how we decide to deal with that. I don't have a lot of sympathy for people that just want to complain that aren't actually focused on finding solutions. Now, like I said, we all go through it. I could share stories all day long of challenges I've had. The difference is I have a challenge, I deal with it, then I find a solution. I don't always find the right ones, and that problem could resurface again. The fact is I just don't sit and dwell in it and allow it to become my identity. And people that do, I'm just not congruent with that.
And if it doesn't work, you're not starting over from nothing. You're starting from experience. That didn't work. Let's learn from it and let's go again. But I think too that it's okay to not be okay with whiners. And I think that we all get to create the culture that we want within our business and our companies, whether that's client culture or team culture. It's totally fine to expect that your people will rise to a certain level. And we tell people, whether it's in our free Facebook group or a client group, this is not the place for whining. People like us do things like this. And so we're going to speak kindness. We're going to speak edification. We're going to pour into one another.
Good.
And we may have differing opinions, but we're certainly going to
And
state
that's
it with
okay.
respect, and we're going to not whine while we try to find the answer to that. And
That's
I love
good.
that.
That's good. I used to have in one of my coffee shops, like I said, I had 65 employees. And when you're dealing with teenagers and college students, you hear it all. I had a big, like a circle with a line through it that said no whiners. I would have kids that were supposed to show up for a shift have their parents call me.
Mhm.
And I'm like, why are you calling me? Courtney has a class tomorrow and she didn't do her homework. And I'm like, Courtney, work for me. I don't want to hear from you. Have Courtney call me. We could talk about it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, guys, you got to set some expectations here. Raise the bar a little bit. Yeah.
Expectations are big.
All right. So we're coming close to the end of our session. What would be a piece of advice that you would tell people that are pushing through this middle and maybe they're looking to grab a hold of something to get them to evolve to tomorrow?
I think it's important for us to take stock in why we're doing this anyway.
Okay.
Go back and connect to your motivation. Because again, if it is your passion, if it is what you were created to do in the world, that doesn't change. The way we do it may change. The implementation of how we do what we do can change as our people change and our culture changes and our world changes. If the motivation that you had at the beginning is still the motivation that you have now, that's what's going to keep you going because that is what is important to you. So I think it's important to keep that
Mhm.
front and center. I think tied in with your motivation is often your core values or the things that you most hold dear. And if the way that you are trying to accomplish your mission is in misalignment with those core values, that can
Yeah.
often create a mess of its own and can keep us stuck. And so a lot of times going back to my why and remembering that renews that motivation that gives me the ability to look at things from a big picture again and make sure that everything's in alignment so that I can move forward and hold it loosely. Like we mentioned earlier, the things that got you here may not take you to the next
Right.
level. That is just a natural growth process. Even the reptiles shed their skin as they grow into the next phase of their life, right? And so be willing to shed the things that no longer serve you without guilt and without shame,
Mhm.
and be open to embracing the new things that will take you to the next growth level and be all in. Don't quit. Be consistent. You're the only one that control that.
Yeah.
And you're the only one to blame if you're not. And so do what you need to do to be all in, to stay in the game and to be consistent. You're going to cross the finish line if you do that.
Awesome. Well, Katie, thank you so much for being here. I truly enjoyed our conversation. So much valuable stuff there. I can't wait to go back through this and pull out some snippets of things people need to focus on. It sounds simple, and we definitely overcomplicate this process. You guys, if you're listening to this, go back and pull out simple consistency, commitment, have grace for yourself as you're going through this messy middle. And remember, we're all doing it. Take the rest of the crap out of it. Remove that and just say, you know what? I can feel sorry for myself later. Right now, I'm going to focus on making these 2 phone calls or sending these 2 emails or posting my social media. And then if I want to feel sad later, then I can go dwell on whatever was hanging me up at that moment. But you can decide to be present and to make the necessary changes to wake up tomorrow and be excited about where you're headed. It's so worth it. It's so worth it. Stay the course, guys.